Hello people, hope you're doing good. Welcome back to another double review, and I mean it this time. It's going to be a proper double review. We're going to have equal amounts of time for both movies this time. Today we're reviewing what I like to call the Red Doorway duology, The First Omen and Monkey Man. Let's start off with The First Omen.
You don't have to be afraid. This child is his way.
So, The First Omen, if you don't know, is a prequel to the 1970s classic The Omen. And I actually watched that film for the first time the other day just to see what I was getting into with this franchise. And the original Omen is good. I really liked it. A bit dated in most parts, but for the most part I thought it was really effective and sent that message of what's it going to take for you to believe really well. But I'll be honest, The First Omen was a film I wasn't too excited for. The first trailer that came out, I really liked. It's short and sweet, it doesn't reveal anything, it just leans you into the movie just enough to get an effect of what it's about, and those are the sort of trailers I really like and I feel we need more of. But then the second trailer came out, and it made it just seem like another generic-ass horror movie, and also, looking back on the trailer after seeing the film, I realised it kind of spoils a little bit, so if you haven't seen The First Omen and you want to watch it, I wouldn't suggest watching that second trailer because it does spoil a bit. But nonetheless, I went into the cinema, sort of optimistic. Also, I was the only one in the screening. It's like a 200-seater screening. I was the only one in there. But yeah, I went in, movie started, I came out. I am so surprised to say that this is fantastic. This is the best horror film of the year. I really can't believe it. I did not think I'd be saying this at the end of the movie. The First Omen does what a prequel should do. Answer questions that the original left off that you really want answered, while also answering ones that you didn't know you needed answering. It does a good job of expanding on the lore of the Omen and what it's about, but I think it also does a great job of being its own thing as well. I think if you've never watched the original Omen or any of the other films, I still think you can really like this film as it works well as another standalone movie. The story is pretty well written, it has themes of belief, authority, and still keeps that same question of what's it going to take for you to believe. And it's revealed in this movie that people do some stupid things to make you believe. Not spoiling though, don't worry, but I feel it was just really effective. The story, just like the first movie, the original Omen, is like a detective story, but you also see the main characters just slowly break down when they realise, like, yeah, this is real, this is happening. Kind of takes that same element from the first movie and does its own little thing with that in this movie. And I think they do that really well, and that's mainly thanks to the character work. The main character of Margaret, I thought was great. What one nitpick I always have with these non-horror movies is that our protagonist isn't always relatable. I feel they always have the same goal, the same motivation of wanting to be a full-fledged nun and give their life to God. But you got to realise that most people can't really relate to that. Most people aren't nuns. I'm not a nun. And most people aren't religious. So it kind of just doesn't really make them relatable, really. But with this film, I think they do an incredible job with making Margaret relatable and likeable. She's not exactly a nun yet, she's still training to become a fully fledged one, but she's relatable because she's a down to earth person who truly cares for everyone, no matter how strange they are or what they're going through. And her struggle with belief throughout the movie is what will make her relatable to a wider audience. And also, she just struggles to fit in at times, which I can relate to. So I think they just do a really good job of making her likable because she's just a normal person. So yeah, they do a really good job with the main character. You really do like her. But just a little bit more on the story. With the detective side of things, they do a really good well with all the twists and turns and reveals in the story. The main big reveal in the story. I know some people said they saw it coming, but I personally did not see it coming, and it really, really surprised me. I thought the twist was done really well. And again, these twists and turns just really expanded on the story of the Omen and just gave the movie more weight and more tension and emotion. And I also think the ending was really well done as well. It fits in really nicely with the original Omen. You know, you could see this and the original Omen now as just this one big movie now. And it just fit really nicely, flowed really well. However, the only thing I do have with that ending is that it kind of looks like they're setting up for a sequel, which I don't really know about, really. So we'll have to see about that. But yeah, I thought overall the ending was just really well done. And lo and behold, we actually have a horror movie. That's scary.
What? 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 That's impossible!
I know. It's shocking. It is shocking, I know. But this movie was actually genuinely terrifying, in sense. It doesn't rely on jump scares. There's like two big jump scares. One of them isn't really, anything like that. There's only one that's really like that, but that was done pretty well. What I really like with the jump scares, and for most of the tension building moments and scares in the movie, is that it kind of just lingers on the jump scare moment. So you know it's coming, but you don't know when it's going to happen. It was really effective at one moment. So I just like that way of doing a jump scare where you know it's coming, you know it's coming, you know it's coming, it's there, it's there, it's there, but when's it going to happen? I just thought it was really effective. And this movie on a technical level is absolutely fantastic. This movie apparently had a modest budget of like $30 billion, something around that ballpark. And it looks 10 times more expensive. Like, some of the shots in this movie, the cinematography, the direction, absolutely fantastic. As I said, I love the way how they just linger on the scares. And some of the shots that kind of remind you of the original Omen as well, I just thought were all really done. And I like the colour palette, the use of orange, just gives this really dirty look, just to add into like the location that the characters are in. I just thought it was just done really well. It is a movie where the camera doesn't move much, but it's done purposely. And I really like that. As I said, it just builds up the scares to make them more effective. Slow motion is used throughout the movie as well, sparingly and used right to make the effects of the scenes, a lot more longer and more effective. They just did most of the technical aspects with the camera work, just really well. This movie's editing as well was really good. Whenever we're going through the slow scenes, just nice, normal editing. But then when you get into the big moments, the big scary tension-filled moments, it's very frantic as well. I love it when horror movies do that. So I just thought the editing was just all done really well. The music as well, we still have the original score from The Omen, which is just fantastic. It's blaring out in this movie as well, and it was just perfect. The score, the editing, the camera work, all done really well. But the main thing I have to really praise is the practical effects. Honestly, a round of applause to the practical effects artists, because they really gross me out. And I'm a guy who's not squeamish. I can take blood and gore. I've seen many things like that. But my word, some of the stuff they do here is just crazy. This movie is extremely gory. And I'm not talking about the Saw type of gory where a head gets chopped off or you see blood for like 5 seconds and that's it. No, this one you see blood, guts for long periods of time. And my word, is it disgusting. I don't want to get into big spoilers, but I'm not looking at pregnancy ever again in the same way. Yeah. Pregnancy has changed a lot for me now. I don't like it because of this film. But apart from the technical aspects, I thought the performances were all really strong. Neil Tiger Free, award worthy. And I mean it, she's award worthy. If it wasn't for her amazing performance, I don't think this movie really would have worked. But it's her performance that elevates the character. She has to go to a lot of different places in this movie and produce so many emotions. And she just pulled it off like nothing. It's like she made it look so easy. I can tell you now it's not. But she was honestly amazing in this film. And I really hope she gets some awards at the end of the year or something, because she really does deserve it. So in conclusion, The First Omen is great as both a prequel and an original horror movie. It answers questions left by the original that you want answering. It sets up a really interesting story and how this came to be, while still helming the original messages of the first film. It's amazingly directed. The acting is all absolutely fantastic. I would honestly see this movie, whether you've seen the original Omen or not, go and see it, go and support it. I think this is the best horror movie of the year, and I am so surprised that I'm saying that. I did not think I'd be saying that at the end of this movie. So yeah, the First Omen, absolutely fantastic. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I think this is probably the best of the franchise, and I do mean that. So yeah, First Omen, amazing. Let's get on to Monkey Man. Now, Monkey Man. As soon as I saw the trailer for this movie, I was like, yeah, I'm into it already. People said it's like Indian John Wick. And I thought that as well. The trailers just made this look like another bloody ass, hard hitting, brutal action movie with a nice classic revenge story in there. And I was like, yeah, I'm into this already. I love Dev Patel. I'm glad that he's getting a film directed. I was ready. I was ready for this movie. And I'm so happy to say that Monkey Man is great. Yeah, it's great. I absolutely love this movie. I will say it wasn't what I was expecting, really, and I'll get into that later, but still, you just have to realise that this was pretty much my kind of movie. It's a simple, bloody revenge action movie. We've seen this so many times before, but it works so well because of the characters. But what I also liked is that they mixed in some, like, political commentary in there and also Indian culture elements. Of course, this movie works because the main character is really likeable. You genuinely feel sorry for him because we see flashbacks of his past and what happened to him, his family, and it's heartbreaking. And it really does a good job of just making you hate the villains. Not every villain needs to have this understandable motivation. Sometimes if you just make the villains really unlikable, it works just as well, and they do a great job of that in this movie. But as I said, this movie helps like messages of political commentary into a nice simple revenge story, and it does it really well. Helms themes of like taking over people of power and corruption, and that these themes relate really well to the main character's journey in his past. They just found a really nice blend to like mix these two things together. And it also works when you see the world around these characters and how other people react and are living. It just works really well. And I also like how they incorporated Indian culture into the movie and into the protagonist's journey. I think they did a really good job of that, and it was so interesting. They presented it in a really nice way. Now, I didn't really have any problems with the writing and the story, but I did have a few problems with how some characters were used. There's two characters in here called Sita and Alfonso. Alfonso was great, but they're not really used well. Alfonso is more the comedic relief, and Sita's just the obligatory powerful woman in these sorts of films, which I haven't got a problem with, but they don't use her well, unfortunately. They were excluded from the third act, pretty much, really, especially Alfonso. Sita does a little bit, but it's just kind of like they didn't really know what to do with them, really, and it was really annoying because I did quite like those characters. I also didn't like how the dialogue was written sometimes. People have a really big obsession with saying the F word in this movie. Nearly every line has that word, and it produced some awfully cringy lines at times. There was one line especially that was like, woohoo, that was not good. So yeah, maybe could have down on the F word a lot, Dev. But of course, the main thing that really made me excited for this movie, and I'm sure most people, was the action. People were saying, oh, it's like Indian John Wick, and I thought that as well. But it's not like that, really. In fact, there's not really that much action. There's one in the start of the second act and the final battle. And for the most part, they are really good. And I mean for the most part because the first big-ass action scene hosts one of the most annoying things ever in action movies. Shaky cam. I hate shaky cam when it's not used right. And they don't use it right here, unfortunately. I get it might have been a stylistic choice to show the character's growth. You know, he starts off as this guy who can't really fight properly, but then when he trains up more, you know, the camera becomes a lot more steady and you can actually see what's going on. I get they tried to do that. I think that's a cool idea, but the shaky cam was so violent that it just made my eyes hurt. I could kind of tell what was going on, and I could tell there was some really good choreography going on here, but the shaky cam just really put me off that big action scene, unfortunately. But apart from that first big action scene, the final fight is just brilliant. The choreography is so stellar, and I know this may sound like a weird compliment, but I love that this movie isn't afraid to hold back on the violence. It's bloody, it's brutal, it's unapologetic. And I mean that as a big compliment because I feel so many action movies are so safe nowadays. I've just been begging for a more realistic action movie. And I think the fight scenes in Monkey Man do a brilliant job with that. And technically, this film is so well done. Apart from the shaky cam in that first fight scene, the direction of this film was really good. Especially in the final fight. I love how like the camera moves around whenever our protagonist is like performing a move. Where he like stabs a knife into a guy's leg and it just like moves down. I just thought it was just really cool how they did that. And some of the lighting in this movie, honestly, amazing. We all saw that shot of him, of the elevator opening, and it's just this like red doorway with the protagonist in. So cool. And there's loads of like scenes in nightclubs. One of my biggest praises for an action movie is if you do a good fight scene in a nightclub. And they do that here, which I'm so happy with. So yeah, technically, and some of the shots as well. Some of the cinematography, brilliant. It's just a really nicely well-directed movie. But what really stood out to me was the music. I think I'm going to be listening to this soundtrack for a while now because this soundtrack is sick. It's sick. I also like how they experimented a little bit more where, a little spoiler, but in the final fight, there's a section in the final fight where the music's just like very angelic and very calm. And it strangely really worked, so I like how they experimented with that. And as mentioned in the first fight, it was a bit annoying. The editing especially was like that, but again, it got better throughout the movie. So in conclusion, I thought Monkey Man was pretty much what I wanted. It's got a simple ass revenge story with some great political commentary and mixes in some Indian culture in there. You like the character. The action is bloody, brutal, violent, just what I want. It's shot amazingly, the use of colours, the lighting, the editing, the music. Absolutely brilliant. Top that off with an amazing performance from Dev Patel, who you could tell is just absolutely giving it 110%. Everyone else does a great job here too. I honestly love so much about this movie. And even though it wasn't really what I was expecting, I still had a blast with this one. So please go and support this movie when you can. So overall, Monkey Man is going to get an 8 out of 10 from me. Yeah, a great movie, highly suggest it. See it when you can. And yeah guys, that is it for the end of this double review. I hope you all enjoyed. If you have seen any of these movies, please let me know your thoughts on them in the comments. Did you like them? Did you not? Let me know. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Have a good day. And see you later.